Hey Chris, Jonathan here. Yeah, thanks so much for sending over the revised spreadsheet and the video kind of walkthrough. That was really helpful. Appreciate it. I've spent a bit of time going through it. I'm going to do this feedback in two stages because I've discovered a few bits and pieces that have just come to mind or have I've noticed in the review, and also I haven't really got to using it as much as I'd like. It's been more of kind of a debugging or a feature review than using it. So this first part is just kind of a quick review, and then I'm gonna just pause the video, use it, and then I'll sort of come back to you with some more. So first of all, the loan you queried what my feedback was on the loan amount. Let's get this size right. Insofar as this loan outstanding figure, you're absolutely right. What I'd forgotten was that it's. I'll just minimise the scroll bar there. What I'd forgotten was that the dad loan is included, which is legitimate. However, yeah, it's a tough one. Would it be because this is the dad loan amount is an informal loan to the business? Okay, so it's not an official business loan. So would it be possible on this tab to have a little checkbox that says include in figures or don't include in figures, which would then force this figure to then recalculate? So that would then give you, or maybe in the settings, maybe it'd be better rather than having checkboxes all over the place, maybe have it in the settings actually, thinking out loud, because then that way the loans outstanding, we know that's what is actually outstanding as far as any sort of business reports go, and then I can uncheck the box and then see what I actually owe in reality, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think a checkbox in the settings, I'm thinking out loud now, would probably be the way to go. Where's the settings? There we go. So somewhere where it says include dad loan, so loans include dad loan in the figures would be a good one for that. So that's that. Then you asked whether it was correct. Let's just go back a bit to the headlines. To apply the tolerance, you've applied the tolerance to the revenue, but you said would it be appropriate to apply tolerance to the cost headlines as well? Yes, absolutely. It's really just so that we've got a broader view. And what I like about this is, if you look at the month by month, there's quite a lot of red where things have been missed. But in often cases they haven't been missed by very much, and very often the month before is significantly higher, so it actually balances out. So in these quarters, we're seeing a lot more green, or at least we've got a better idea, and. I mean, in the quarters, we can probably improve the tolerance even further to £3,000 maybe, because that would be fair. If we've got £1,000 tolerance per month here, have a £3,000 tolerance here, and maybe have that adjustable in the settings, because here 27,878 chapter we expected, we've got 26,339. That's pretty damn close. I'd say that's fair. Whereas with the core revenue, that was quite a way off, although it's within 3,000. That's quite a way off. So maybe have 3,000 for the chapter and the costs, but then core revenue is still 1,000, maybe something like that. That would be good, just to give a bit more meaning to this. I'm not trying to get green across the board. I'm trying to highlight the one thing. So looking at this, I'd say the one thing is my costs in the last quarter. That was the one thing. So if we could get it so that that's pretty much the only red in the quarters, that then makes this an extraordinarily useful document. So that would probably be the thing to do there, I think. Then you said it was driving you crazy with the months 1 to 13. Take your time on that, buddy. No rush at all. But I totally know how annoying those things get. So thanks for preempting my feedback on that one. Now on the add row, I love what you've done here with the adding the row on the not the history, sorry, on the actual forecast. This one here, yeah, there we go. Where you've put the add row. However, to someone that's not used this before, oh no, you have. You've put a tooltip. That's what I was after. A bit of a tooltip. They've done it already, so ignore that. The only thing that would be worth mentioning on this tooltip is that when you add a row, it's got to be mapped to 0. So in the 0 field mapping. So if we add maybe not so much in the revenue, but certainly in the expenses, any row we add has got to be mapped directly to 0. So maybe worth putting a warning about that. Remember to add 0 field mapping. And do you know what I've just remembered? I need to do the 0 field mapping, so I was going to make a note of that. When I pause the video, I will sort that out. Okay, so that was that. Deleting rows, I just wanted to check with you. I mean, obviously, if you deleted like this one, that would be hugely catastrophic. But if we were to say delete, I don't know, bank charges, for example, would that have a knock-on effect on anything if we just went literally the whole row? Because I'm guessing there's some merged cells somewhere that it would affect, but maybe I'm not, maybe I'm wrong. Could you just let me know if that's okay? And before I move on to the next item, 0 field mapping, just to answer your point, a lot of these administration expenses, legal expenses, they are valid 0 fields. It's just that we haven't incurred any of them in the previous month or the previous quarter, and that's why it's not found them in the reports that it's run when remotely accessing 0. So a profit and loss report, for example, would typically show all of these, but it won't show them where there hasn't been any. So we haven't had any motor vehicle expenses, legal expenses, etc. So that's one where you might want to be careful. I don't think there's a way in 0 of showing the 0 level. We could try actually. I'll just do this quickly. Report. There's 2 profit and loss reports. You've got to be careful which one you get. I don't see our layout options again. There's layout. Yeah, so in edit this layout, you can there select all the operating expense columns or categories, or you could simply program the macro to go in here and check on all of these and see if they match up, and then colour them green if they do, if they don't find them in the actual report itself, if that makes sense. So if it runs the report, it doesn't find any motor vehicle expenses, rather than go and shade it red, you could run it to this screen here, which I've just guided you to, run a profit and loss and just press edit layout and it will be here. And if it finds that phrase anywhere here, then colour it green, because then you know it's there, it's just the 0 for it. And then the backup credit card, I'll come back to you on that. And the corporation tax, I've got an answer. I thought I'd forwarded it to you, but perhaps I haven't, so I'll double check on those two, because they are definitely try and highlight them. It's not working very well. I'll come back to those. Okay, so just 2 fields to map. Okay, now on the cash flow forecast, I really like. Yeah, this is scrolling too much. There we go. Yeah, I like what you've done here with this. This is quite nice. I'm wondering what the difference is between forecast and projected. That would be interesting. I'm guessing projected is what you've got just based on averages, whereas forecast might be what I've put in manually, I'm guessing, but if you could just confirm, that would be handy. But I quite like that little drop down menu. We've probably discussed that before and I've probably forgotten, so apologies. We almost need to write a manual to use, isn't it? Okay, so yeah, what I wanted to say was, you said new members is based on the last 6 months, new member rate. So new members here, based on the last 6 months. It shouldn't be. Just seeing what your KS 50. No, that's like you haven't there. The new member rate there is based on what it should be, which is go to the settings tab. The new member rate should be based on the visitor rate, the retention rate, and the conversion rate of that particular region. That's what the new member rate should be based on. So I'm guessing you're saying the forecast is based on the average 6 months. We really shouldn't be using average 6 months for new member rate. That's a very poor estimator of new member rate, because it is extremely cyclical, very seasonal. Obviously at the moment with COVID it's completely shot out of the water, but generally speaking there's certain times of the year which are very busy, some which really are not, and it is very seasonal. However, it is also risky, I suppose, I'm thinking out loud now, because everything is so seasonal, because some chapters have huge numbers of renewals in certain months. It doesn't mean that month's a particularly good month for visitors. It might be the anniversary of the chapter's birthday, in which case a whole load of renewals will come up, but those people that have come up for renewal have joined at various times leading up to that chapter's launch, which is why the birthday would have a disproportionate number of renewals coming up, because their membership doesn't start until the chapter launches, but they have to join at some point. So I'm thinking out loud a bit, and I'm going to backtrack a bit. If you think that the average of the last 6 months is the best estimator, then I'm happy to go with that. But generally speaking, seasonal variation is the best estimator, I think, but it can be skewed by chapter birthday. So, for example, in October, Weybridge have a birthday. They've got something like 9 renewals, I think, but they wouldn't necessarily have a disproportionate number of visitors correlating to that. Sorry, I'm probably making the same point over and over. Let me know your thoughts on that. That's definitely one for us to negotiate on. Okay. Right. Now, this is where we're really gilding the lily now. Okay. This is not a need to do at all. It's a very nice to do, and we don't need to do it at all. But every month I get a report from BNI head office. Let me try and find it. I'm sure you've seen this report, but this particular one you may not have done. So we get the traffic lights every month, which are the various reports we get. Now the one which is interesting is the regional dashboard. Okay. Now if I open that in Excel here, or open it in Mac, I suppose, it doesn't matter, does it? Okay, so here we go, sending that. So this is every region and every statistic you could possibly imagine. It's very busy. If I just get rid of all the regions, just put Surrey in, you'll see a bit more information there. Now, this has, amongst other things, there's probably all sorts of good things we could do with this, but one of the key things it's got is visitor rate, conversion rate, drop members per chapter, you can even use that, net change in membership per chapter, first year retention. So you could go to the moon about with this information if you really wanted to, but it has got the visitor rate, the conversion rate of the regions, which we can then plug into that dashboard to give us forward forecasting. So it's always, to be honest, it's always going to be stored in the same folder. If I go back to Windows, it's always going to be BNR phone documents, traffic lights, whatever the year is, whatever the month is, in that format, and then that would be the subdirectory. So it's always going to be in that location, and obviously that's going to change by the month. So if you could develop a dynamic macro to just fish that out, if it's the latest one, so if you look in 2020, she only creates, it only goes up to the latest month. So if it's the middle of August and she hasn't done July yet, then it won't go up to July because she hasn't done it. So it'll always be the chronologically latest folder that will be the relevant one. If you can develop a dynamic macro to just fish that out and plug that into the settings, where we've got visitor rate, conversion rate, and number of chapters, of course, as well, because that's gone up now for Sorry Used. Plug all of that in automatically, then that would just be amazing, honestly. So that really needs to be tied, rather than manually doing it. That wants to be tied to here, refresh or BNR Connect data, honestly. Although I know it's not BNI Connect, but it needs to be tied into here. Or maybe just one big master button, refresh everything, and then have it as a separate button. Get latest stats from traffic lights. I'm thinking out loud. Yeah, maybe you have a button here that says get latest stats from BNI traffic lights, and then a big master button. Just refresh everything. Just an idiot's button. So yeah, there we go. So that's a question. If you can do that, it'd be great. If you can't, don't worry. I've put check over the VAT process. I think you were trying to clarify on the VAT. So I'm not sure what I meant by that note that I've made there. I'm gonna have to come back to that one. This is just an action for me. Check over cash available into the month. We'll look at that. Yeah, the field mapping I've talked about. There's only the two fields that we need to look at. Okay. Now I've also got this will be a really handy one. Okay, so we've got a little tick box here. It says quarterly average, and I love what you've done with that. Could we add another tick box? Sorry, it's a bit of pain, and it does need to be on here as well, which says include core, because quite often when I'm doing this cash flow forecasting, the numbers won't add up. So let's say we're doing this year. August is traditionally a quiet month. This year I suspect it won't be quite so quiet because honestly people aren't going away, but actually it's not. Oh no, expenses are high. So expenses are 23k for August. Income is excluding core 20k. It's not bad actually, considering it's August. And scrolling all over the place here. Now, it's human nature to want to make the numbers work, right? So what I sometimes I'm tempted to do is to say, well, all right, we'll just have more core applications in August. We'll just have more core applications there in August. That's what I'm sometimes tempted to do. And so it'd be nice to see before and after. So remove core completely from the income would be the result of checking the tick box. And then uncheck the tick box, core is back in the income totals. Hope that makes sense. And just thinking out loud, yeah, this includes an allowance for core, doesn't it? So we don't want to affect this. It's just on the cash flow forecast. It's just when I'm using it really, so I can get a real feel. Sorry, this is a long video. That'd be really handy. Cash available in the bank, stopped in January 2020. So I just wanted to check. That's January. Scroll right down. So we've got cash available in the bank. Where is that? Yeah, here. Last entry is January 2020. Is that because manually nothing was put in, and that's the data you've been working with? I'm guessing it's not pulled from anywhere. You could, in theory, get that data from zero, I think. Let me just pause the video so see if I can get it. I'll go back to zero. It might take me a little while. I'm going to pause the video just for a second. Yeah, look, it's entirely possible. It'd be really handy. In fact, if you could do it so it would automatically correct all of the historical ones as well, that would be really handy. You should find that they're pretty close, honestly. So what we want, I'll go into zero and show you. It's the only account we're interested in is the current account. Okay, so go to the current account, and well, technically speaking, it's all of them added together. But if you want to be really accurate, it's all of them added together. So I'll show you the current account. So you go to the current account, click on bank statements, and then that will show you literally in and out the feed from the bank account. So you haven't got to have a bank account login or anything like that. Zero takes care of all of that. And then there's probably some sort of report you can do. But essentially, if you look down here, you can see end of June. Where are we? So June. There we go. So 30th of June is the last. That's the last debit. So the balance in the bank at the end of June was 17,484.69, but actually it wasn't. There's a £12,000 overdraft in addition, and I want you to include that. So the actual balance was 29,484 that was available. So that would go 29,484 would go there. Only because I borrowed 50 grand, but anyway, there, that's what would go there. So if you could automatically get that, that would be really, really handy. There's got to be some way of going back far enough to get that, I'd have thought. How far does this go? Yeah, it goes on and on and on. 24 pages of it, so I'm sure you can macro that out. So that'd be really handy. Show quarters on graph is typo, a minor one. So go back to the headline graphs, where it says show quarters. Where is it? Headlines must be. Yeah, show quarters on graph. Needs a little space there, buddy. Quarters on graph. Tiny little thing. And then graphs, yeah, there's a slight issue here. So if you look at this graph here, the bar graph, probably a more meaningful title would be good, like track, I don't know, revenue targets, something like that. And then if you look here, it goes July 19, August 19. But then if we, which is fine, but if we picked, I've got the quarters there already. Where are the quarters? Yeah, here we go. So Q3 2019, Q4 2020, Q1 2020, Q2 2020. I think you got this one wrong, buddy. I think it's Q4 2019. Is that manual or is that pulled? I would have thought that would have pulled from somewhere, but I'm not quite sure. Yeah, it's pulled from here. So something's gone wrong there to make Q4 2020 pop in there when it shouldn't be. Yeah, so have a think about it. Q4 2020 isn't there either, so there's something definitely awry there somewhere. So just highlight that. So that's everything for now. I'm just going to do a little bit of forecasting now and I'll finish this up, buddy. All right. So yeah, I've just started going through the spreadsheet a little more, and there's a couple of things I've picked up. So first of all, the dad loan tab, is it possible I could rename that personal loans? Because this is all stuff that my dad has effectively loaned me, but there's one or two other minor loans that I'd like to put in there, especially if we've got the option to check or uncheck whether or not we include that. So if we could rename that, I don't want to rename it myself in case I mess up all your various bits and pieces. If it's loads of hassle, let's not do it. But if it's relatively easy, if we could rename that, that would be great. Secondly, just looking at the settings, the retention rate, I've just adjusted these. The retention rate you cannot get from the dashboard spreadsheet that I showed you here. The retention rate is not there. Only the first year retention, not the overall retention, is there. So to get the retention rate, what we need is, if I drag this in here, it's the traffic lights spreadsheet here. This again, the name format's always the same. That's the dashboard there. That's the one we're looking at here. But the retention rate will come off of here, which I think I've already got open. Yeah, here we go. You can see Surrey West number 1, which is nice. Retention is 73%. Surrey East, a bit further down, number 47. Retention rate is 70%. So that gives you the retention rate, just in case you are able to automate that area. And the third one, and the most pertinent one, very important, this one, is training revenue. So income from training. I couldn't understand why so March, April and May and June actual says ridiculous numbers. They shouldn't say anything. March might say something, but certainly April, May and June shouldn't say anything at all. So I went to zero, and I ran a profit and loss report, and I saw that the venue fee brackets training, that's the code in zero, so we may need to do some mapping here, but venue fee brackets training, that is the code in zero for training income. And also training expenditure, so we spend money on getting myself and the team trained, but we also take a lot of money in training our members, so our customers. Okay, so as you'd expect, June and May are 0. April we received a credit of I'm so sorry, Chris, forget what I just said. Let's start again. Let me just pause, I'm getting confused because there's training and events up here and there's a venue fee brackets training. Sorry, let me pause. Okay, I remember what it is now, sorry. Okay, so venue fee training is what we pay to venues to put on training events. So we received a refund of £5,250 because we had to cancel training in March. We received that in April. I didn't realise I'd done it that quickly actually. And obviously we spent £7,000 in February paying for that event. So that's weird how those figures should be exactly the same. That's really quite bizarre. Look at that. There's a 7. Oh, that was the deposit for the. Yeah, there we go. That's why it was in quick succession. That's why. Okay, so that's for the venue fee for the training. So going back to the actual spreadsheet, that wouldn't go in there. This is training revenue. This is what we take from training events. That would be a cost. In fact, it would be a fixed cost rather than an operating expense. So where would that be? Yeah, there we go. Venue fee training. So it'll be in there. It will be in there as a cost. So it looks like we've already got that mapped up. Let's just check. So June 0, May. So we've got a refund there of minus 6,300 in April, net refund of what went out in March. And obviously 2,200 was a deposit. So that looks there or thereabouts about right. I'm not sure it does actually map up, does it? I'm not sure it does actually. So that's one to check on the mapping for the venue fee, because we should have £5,250 rebate in April, which we don't have, unless we're adding something else in here. So maybe that's okay. Maybe I'm getting confused. But the thing that is up here in terms of income, training revenue, that's definitely wrong, and that might be my fault for not pointing in the right direction. But we were expecting £5,000 to come in March. It most certainly didn't. So training and events in March, you'd expect these to be all 0. In fact, they're not, because of one or two things. So we did do some refunds for training, which is that one there. That is just simply some refunds which we gave to people, excluding VAT, of course. So that's why those aren't 0, and that was a refund which came back to us. These obviously are 0, and the last actual trading revenue we received was back in February, as you'd expect when things were face to face. So this training and events field needs to map directly to training revenue. Okay, that's important. And there's another one down here as well, training events. So it's kind of a combination. So training events costs is sort of included in that in 0. So I'm thinking out loud now, but yeah, let me pause the video a sec. This is getting confusing already. Sorry, Chris, right, I've nailed it. Sorry for the confusion. Okay, so I may need to adjust the 0 field mapping, but this is the way it is. Okay, so if we train BNI members, our customers, then the income is reported here. This is training income. So the reason these are negative is we had to give a bunch of refunds to people that were due to come to training. Here we took a bunch of payments from people that were due to come to training in March, which we ultimately cancelled, hence the refunds here. Now I think the bookkeeper may have been slightly inconsistent in applying the refunds, but that is the field here for revenue coming in for training. So that should go in the training revenue. So June 2020 we should have we've got 1443. We should have in fact 0. May 2020 it should be minus 799. So it says 500. So that's clearly wrong. So that's that one. Now um, training and events, that refers to training and events what that means is training events that I have had to attend personally, or a member of the team has had to attend personally. So it is a cost. It's a cost of the sale. It's a cost of making sure we deliver BNI. So that's training and events we have had to attend. And obviously we had a conference recently which was cancelled, which is why we got a refund for that, which is what that refers to there. So the training and events there refers to training and events there. So again, so for June minus 225, that would kind of make sense, wouldn't it? Yeah, that is correct. So that's including VAT. And then for May, we would there's a cost for May for training and events there, which again looks about right. So that's what that is referring to. I'm just sort of clarifying what I've said so that we're all on the right page here. And then venue fee for training, that's the cost of the venue, of course, which would be also down here under venue fee training. So there we go. I may have talked a lot there about not very much, sorry, but hopefully that's got that accurate. So I stand by what I said. There was an issue with these figures. The trading revenue should directly reflect trading income field. Perhaps we need that mapping on the field mapping. Okay, just going to pause it now. Pardon me, I think I'm pretty much there now. So we've got a few more points to go over. By the way, I've been creating a little, I can't drag it across, a little list of notes. I call it Chris Notes, and it's in the I can't drag it across. It's in the folder with the cash flow spreadsheet, and it's just got a quick bullet point list of everything I've said on this video. It won't make sense if you just look at it cold, but when you look at the video, it should make sense. So as you go through the items, you should be able to tick the items off. So just a few more to go through. Right, marketing. So the marketing cost line, the figures for May and June are wrong. So these two figures here are incorrect. Let me show you what I mean. So if we go to 0, and we go, this is just do profit and loss, I suppose, is the easiest thing. I'm thinking this is how you're doing it. Compare periods, 1 month, compare with previous, whatever. Right, June. There we go. Show that. There we go. Okay. And what did I say? May and June for marketing. So this is June, isn't it? So this is June. This is May. They're both clearly very low. And then going further back, you can see some higher figures. 55, 91, 57, 29 should be May and June. Clearly not right, and also actually March and April not right either. So something's very awry there. I'm just thinking out loud. Let's have a quick look at the field mapping. Right, that should be fine. Should be dead straightforward. So something's gone wrong there. So if you could correct that, that would be great. So it's not just May and June, looks like the whole row's wrong. Does the 6 month yeah, so what I wanted to check with you is this sort of formula that you've got with the 6 month average. I quite like that actually. It's certainly better than nothing. So I'm presuming the idea is that that's there and that's automatically generated for future months when these buttons are pressed to refresh the data, etc. I'm also wondering, I'm thinking out loud, what is the process for adding an extra month? I guess when it goes to August, we press these buttons and it just automatically adds them. So I'm guessing when it automatically adds the month, due to it just being a new month, that it automatically adds this 6 month thing as well until I've entered a manual forecast. So yeah, that's perfect. As far as costs go, that's perfect. As far as income goes, less so. As I mentioned earlier in the video. Sorry, this is such a long video, by the way. Now, what I've noticed though is if we select quarterly average and we start messing around with figures, the 6 month predictive algorithm no longer works. So let me give you an example. I'm not particularly bothered, honestly, but if it's a bug in your system, you'll probably want to fix it, I'm guessing. So let's pick something that's always the same. I've put my salary DLA as £4,000. So let's go here and change that to 5,000. And you'll see there's no effect at all on the future months. Whereas if we undo quarterly average, then that should have an immediate knock-on effect on the forecasting of my salary. Bear with me. It hasn't, in fact, so bring that back. Oh, of course it won't have done, because I've manually done all of them. Sorry, let me redo this. Let's find something where it is in effect. It's always about the same. Travellers assistance. Yeah, let's try that. Travellers assistance. They're all around the £600 mark, right? So let's hit the quarterly average. Okay, so travellers assistance. Let's move my timeline back because of the averages, right? So they're all around the £600 mark. They still are. So let's say for July it's £2,000, for example. Now they do go up a bit, but it didn't look to me like they were going up correctly. Maybe I'm doing this wrong, actually. I might be wrong in this comment, so forgive me. I just noticed earlier when I messed around with one of them, it didn't seem to update, so it might be just worth just double checking the code there, but forgive me, I can't actually prove that one, so it looks like you're fine there. The Ray Johnson figures aren't right. Yeah, so this is I get the average thing, but for the loans that's not going to work. So the best thing to do on the loans is look at the schedule of the actual loan, which we've got as a separate tab. So the RF loan, that's Robert French. So you'll see capital paid is intimately detailed in this column. A couple of payments made in May, so you'll just have to be careful of that. Again, the Ray Johnson loan, the payments are sort of caught up. So it's best to get it from this schedule, really, rather than anywhere else, or making a 6-month average on those, the Robert French loan, and on the R benefactor, that's Ray Johnson. That's this one here. I've manually done that anyway, but it's just, again, you might, if you're correcting it for Robert French, you might as well correct it for Ray Johnson, in terms of where that data is pulled from. So that is those two things. Now, the VAT, I've come up with a formula which approximates pretty accurately, actually, what the VAT needs to be. So the way VAT works is you get 3 months. So the months I'll use as an example are May, June and July, so these 3 months here. You then skip a month, you get a month of grace, and then you have to pay it by the 12th of the following month. In this case, May, June and July, VAT gets paid on the 12th of September. So I've come up with this formula, and what it does is, on me, it adds up all of the income from the months in question. It deducts all of the expenses, but it does not deduct non-VAT-able expenses. So the only one really was the loans and the commission paid to consultants is not VAT-able. It deducts everything else, multiplies the result by 0.2 for 20% VAT, and that is what you get there. Now the VAT is payable every 3 months, so the same, if we could drag this across, if it would work, I would, because you skip these 2 months and you do the same again here, skip 2 months, do the same again here, etc. I've just put in £5,000 on each month just to approximate for now, but if you could make that that sort of keep going across to predict VAT, I think that'd be a very good prediction model, honestly. Now you'll notice that there's a much higher number here for March. That's because in March there is essentially a catch-up. So where VAT was allowed by the government to be deferred from where it should have been paid here, it's actually come in here. I'm totally okay if you scrap that and just put the prediction right the way across the board. Honestly, I'm completely fine with that. I can manually somewhere else in the figures and maybe add an extra row just for me, just put VAT adjustment. I'm more than happy to do that, if that keeps this whole thing automated. So that's probably the best way. In fact, if we add a new row, call it VAT adjustment, and then I'll deduct it out of June and add it back in March, that will mean the bottom line figures are correct. So that is that. And then finally, corporation tax. I was hoping we could automate that, but I think we'll have to do that manually for now. It's so sporadic. Going forward in the future, we will be able to automate it, but right now, with the way the business is, it's not going to be possible. So that's it. I think that's pretty much the end of my review. I'm just going to finish off my forecasting now, and then I'll say au revoir. Hey Chris, just noticed one more thing. So the cash available at the end of the month, I mentioned earlier, isn't populating through from zero. If you could get that to populate, that'd be great. Obviously, going forward, we won't have a clue what that is, so we need to predict it, because otherwise these so this formula here pulls in cash available, and it tells me how much do you think you're going to have, on an ongoing basis. How much money are you going to have back in the bank at the end of the month? That's like a predictor. Okay, so what we need to do is, if that's the predictor of how much we'll have in the bank at the end of the month, this cell here needs to equal that. Otherwise, the knock-on effect is going to be horrible, and equally it needs to go right the way up to. In fact, I'm just going to do it now, but I need you to know what I'm doing. So that will then have a knock-on effect going forward. Looks like I've still done something wrong here. There's a huge loss showing there, that doesn't look right. Let's pause while I figure that out. Hey Chris, Jonathan here. Sorry, there have been a few more things. This is quite a long review, so I apologise. Pardon me. So first of all, again on the cash flow forecast 12 months tab, just going down to the bottom, I'm just noticing that everything in the bottom is a loan. Even my salary is technically a loan. I just wonder whether it's worth splitting these out into a new section, just putting like a divider line like we have with these bits at the top with the revenue. So splitting it out, just making it slightly separate. That would mean that if you want to add a row, you'd have to select expense or a loan row, but loan rows honestly aren't going to be added that often. So at the moment, if you add a new expense row, it goes at the bottom of the loans, which kind of isn't really ideal from an aesthetic perspective. I have, however, as you can see, added a new row, which is the COVID loan. I have had a business loan from the British government, which is a bounce back loan, in fact. I've added a new tab here, which includes a schedule. It's got a whole amount outstanding, interest payable, etc. That I'm quite comfortable with. Now, the amount, this column here, column C, Jonathan paid, that's how much I'm going to have to pay, and obviously it depreciates every month as the interest goes down. But the capital repayment is in fact fixed. I don't know why it's varied a little bit there. That's quite bizarre. The capital repayment is fixed, but it's there we go. That's why it wasn't quite making sense. So essentially, this column here, column C, the repayments column, that needs to map to the COVID loan and transpose to horizontal payments. So obviously it's nothing until May, and I've just manually put in 9/30, May, June, July. But that will have to, especially as these months add on, have to transpose on, so we get accurate forecasting there. Okay, this is a very thorough review, so apologies, but it's going to be such a brilliant tool. It already is, but when the rough edges are smoothed off, this is going to be a spectacularly useful tool. Okay, so split the loans out, add the COVID loan, transpose the schedule. Right, now I've noticed a few of these expenses are wrong. So audit and accountancy fees, for example, I've actually corrected this now. I've just put 240 back for everything, but there were some quite high numbers in here, like 500 odd pounds. Now if you go to the zero report, audit and accountancy fees consistently around about the £220 mark, and of course there's bookkeeping as well, which thinking out loud, that's why the numbers are high. Hold on then, I'm going to pause for a second. Ignore me, Chris, I'm really sorry, I'm completely wrong about that. There's nothing wrong at all with the audit and accountancy fees. It should absolutely be about 500 quid. So I've manually gone and entered them all now, and I've got them all wrong. So just for now, I'll just manually enter a few going backwards. But I'm sure when you press refresh, reload data from 0, that will all correct. So that will give me some accurate data. So nothing wrong at all with audit and accountancy, sorry. The bank charges does appear wrong, but again, that's probably my mistake. But I don't really understand why there's these very high figures here. 360 quid in March. If you look at 0, bank charges is, oh actually it is £360 in March, or there or thereabouts. There shouldn't be any VAT added to bank charges, so I'm guessing that's why your number here is bigger than the number in here. Bank charges are not VAT-able, so we need to find a way to select which one of these rows should have VAT applied to it and which ones shouldn't. Bank charges definitely should not. But yeah, I can see actually there was quite a high bank charge in March. Let's have a quick look. Overdraft. Account. That's what it was. It was the account. It was the annual account fee, not monthly account fee. That's why. Okay, so that's fine. Nothing wrong at all. Overlook the fee there as well. So nothing wrong with it, except it looks like you're adding VAT onto them. So we need some sort of a lookup table, maybe a new tab, or maybe in the settings or something saying VAT applied or not. Curious about the student loan, minus 307. Minus, there's a lot of minuses here. Oh no, that's fair. Sorry, that is accurate. I'm not sure the student loan should have it there, but that's a small anomaly. Let's not look at that for now. But definitely, I think they are accurate, I believe. Okay, so bank charges are not wrong. Sorry. Now, there's a couple of areas where there are some mistakes. So, commissions paid to consultants. I'm sure these figures are historically accurate, but going forward, the predictions based on the rolling 6-month average really shouldn't be. There was a formula in the original sheet that I sent you, which, if I just scroll back to, go back to Windows, sorry, Mac. Okay, I'll just show you. It's in the folder. It's the regular cash flow tracking spreadsheet. Okay, there is a formula in that. In fact, if I open it in Mac, I can probably dig it out and put it in a edit file that I can copy across. So cash flow forecast 12 months. So just zoom in a bit, enlarge this up a bit. Ooh. That's a bit better, a bit easier to see, isn't it? Now, commissions paid to consultants. There's a formula in here. Yeah, is that. So essentially, what it is it's a zoom up so you can see. It's the previous month, and it's based on the number of retained members, number of new members for each region, times 95. That's £95 times 60%. That's the proportion of chapters which the DCs look after. Now this probably needs something in the settings really. It does need this formula. It's a pretty good approximation. The £95 could vary, so it's probably worth having maybe in the settings a setting for direct consultant remuneration, in this case £95, and then the date from which it applied, so that we can modify that as we go forward perhaps. Or maybe make sure that it can only be applied for future and previous ones are saved as the value that they were calculated at. No, I'm thinking out loud, that's rubbish. Let's not have a date at all. Let's just have, that wouldn't make sense at all. In the settings, direct consultant remuneration, £95 is what I set it as. And then it's those figures times that. And then this percentage, again, that needs to go in the settings, proportion of chapters that Jonathan is not looking after. That would be what that would be. So in the settings, we need two fields: direct consultant remuneration and proportion of chapters that Jonathan does not look after. And that will give us information for that formula, which can then be extrapolated out for the following 12 months. and do you know what, I'm thinking out loud. I like to predict how cash flow is going to change based on the number of chapters I look after. So maybe actually have it as this formula. Just keep it as this formula. Actually, no need for the settings at all. That's going too far. I'll just copy this now and I'll put it across. If we get a supply text, just put it in here. Now, so that's the DC one, and then there's the royalties one. Again, this one needs to be not the average of the last 6 months. That would be crazy. It needs to be based on revenue. So the royalties, I did have something in here. Yeah, there we go. So it's this formula here. So again, it's unfortunate it's got the new member price in there, which it really should just pull in from the settings tab. But aside from that, that formula is pretty good, really, because again it works on the previous month, and it says, okay, so what's the renewal revenue, what's the new member revenue, and it also looks at, what's the other thing it looks at? This particular one we had a launch, so I added a bit more in, but that's my manual editing. So this is this is a really bad example to show you. I'll show you. That's showing me as paying the revenue for a chapter launch every month. Oh, that's a massive error on my spreadsheet there. It's only meant to be this first bit. Okay, so yeah, so this first bit here, this bit shouldn't be on there. So it's essentially renewal revenue total, new member revenue total, and here's the actual rates for those positions. Well, we're not having a chapter launch every month. I wish, so we don't need to add that on. So I'll copy that actually, and I'll put that in. But I'm just explaining what I'm doing, and that should be left as is for those two rows. Hope that makes sense. Okay. Was there anything else? Yes, there are insurance prediction. Yeah, just a heads up, and I don't know if this is me or you or what, but the insurance for July was absolutely ridiculous. Now, that looks awfully like a direct consultant remuneration figure or a royalty figure or something like that. I don't know where that's come from, but I'm going to correct that. But I wanted you to be aware that that was there. It might have been one of your scripts. I don't know. Okay, I'm going to pause it again now. Hey Chris, right, that's all. Oh, sorry. That's all done now. Just check we're still recording. Yeah, yeah, we are good. Now on the spreadsheet, I just noticed Cashflow Loan Dad, for some bizarre reason, I've had a payment put in there, and then that's sort of spun out over here. So I really don't understand why that is. There's no need for that at all. There were no payments to my dad there or there, so I have no idea what that is all about. Could you just be aware of that, and also benefactor 3T. Again, there's been no payments at all to this person. I've even forgotten who that was, in fact. But certainly there's been no payments to anyone there either. Again, benefactor D, no payments there. So the only payment which is, and I've corrected it, is this one here, the 425. That's correct. But this is not. Let's delete that out now. I think I'd rather it not zero. I'd rather just delete it. My dad, again, I don't know if I manually put these in, but I don't believe I did. In fact, I wouldn't have done, because it's all you've got is all automatic. Unless you've got a very old set of predictions that I did, and I'd put that in, but none of that's correct. And then T, this is Tim Cook. That's what that was. That's all paid off now. So get rid of that as well. So that certainly looks a bit healthier. Yeah, just thought you should be aware of that. just spotted a major thing that we need to change. Really, really important, please. In the spreadsheet, you see what under this column row here, travel and subsistence. We've got some quite high figures here, and I couldn't understand why there was high figures coming in for these months when really there's not been a lot going on. So I went to zero to have a look, and in fact it's pretty much exclusively coming from the mileage journal. So this is where I'm putting down miles done for the business, and then there's a few bits of subsistence where I bought a coffee here and there. In this cash flow spreadsheet, we are not interested in these DLA mileage journals. So when you pull the data from zero, and I know this is probably adding extra work for you, so I apologise, but it's critical that we do not pull in these mileage journals. So on the summary, it's not enough to just pull these details. We have to go into the mileage, the training and events costs each time, and when you click on that, you'll get that. Go for this one here, I suppose. I think that's the same one actually. No, it's not. Oh no, sorry, that's totally different. Sorry. Sorry, let's start again. So that's training and events. Travel and subsistence. I mean, so if you click on the travel and subsistence, you'll see that that we've got a mileage journal. That entry must always be ignored. It will always be a large number, so you could maybe filter it that way if that helps. But it will always be called DLA mileage or month end journal -DLA mileage. That entry needs to be removed, please, buddy. Okay, pause again. Nearly there, buddy. Sorry for the long review of this. So just looking at this net cash ongoing, we've got some pretty sensible figures coming out now. Looking forward to July next year, when I think in August the Robert French loan gets paid off, and then suddenly the numbers will start to look a lot more positive. So yeah, I just wanted to add in an extra row, if I may. So you see how it says net cash for the month ongoing, which allows for cash in the bank, and then ongoing including core revenue. So that's there's some discrepancy there. What that's supposed to look like is, yeah, that this looks more like it. These numbers aren't very meaningful. What the number's supposed to do is it adds the money you've got from this one doesn't take into account the money you're getting from core. This one does. What I'd like is another one, which so it's still this figure 30,427, but we take out the core risk. So going right back to the headlines, we've got the core risk. Where were we? July core risk, total core risk. So at the moment it's showing off zero as £3,000 worth of deferred income almost. So we want to be looking at, so that will be 3047 minus 3. That will be what that number will be. So it'll be net cash ongoing, including core, minus the risk. So that will give me my bottom line of whether I'm okay or not. I hope that makes sense. So nearly there now. Right, there's just one other thing that I thought of. So at the moment, if we go into the settings, at the moment our retention rate is strong, our visitor rate is not that bad honestly, but our conversion rate is absolutely shocking at the moment. And the reason is that, you know, B&I groups are online, some of the groups haven't quite got the hang of it yet, and actually our retention rate is probably going to take a hit as well. So what I'd really like, would it be possible to have two of these boxes, forecast params for the immediate future, and then another forecast params for a set date in the future, and I can enter the date where I think things are going to change? That would be quite good if I can see there's a change coming up. For example, a chapter launch, and you know, if it's not COVID, a chapter launch could then change those parameters, because the number of chapters would change, retention rate probably go down slightly, visitor rate would go up probably slightly across the regions, etc., etc. So if we could have one for now, So when I say for now, I mean from the current forecast month going forward, and then one for a set date, and I can enter the date at the bottom going forward from there. So for example, if you put the set date as 1st of December 2020, it will take effect from there going forward. Hope that makes sense. It is gilding the lily a bit, but with those numbers looking as extreme as that, it's going to make quite a significant difference. Hope that makes sense. Hey Chris, Jonathan here. Yeah, so I just went to the this little drop down arrow here on the July tab, and I went to projected just to see what was going to come up there, and it said that the projected figures were more than 7 days out of date. That I want to refresh, so I selected yes, and then after a while, unfortunately, I got some error messages. I'll pull them up now in the video so you've got them for context, but I will also send them to you as attachments. So let's just go screenshots. There we go. Today. Yeah, this is the one that's really, yeah. So that's what comes up with the debug, and this is what happens. Yeah, that's what came up as an error message. So hopefully that debug means something to you. I'll send it to you as a file as well. So yeah, as I said in an earlier comment, I'm not sure what that actually does. It's been so long since I've asked you to do it. I've forgotten what forecast versus projected, what the difference actually is. Also, now that it's started to update, it seems to have gone backwards and highlighted some of these fields in red. And I honestly don't understand what that red highlighting means. I'm not sure that's intentional, so if you could let me know, that'd be great. Thanks mate, nearly there. Hey Chris, just noticed something else. So in the cash flow loan from Ray Johnson, the numbers it's pulling in, they're probably accurate in terms of the size of the number, but unfortunately they're not accurate in the polarity. So they're actually coming in as minus numbers, when in fact this is the expenses area of the spreadsheet. So these should be a positive number. I'm paying this money to Ray Johnson off the loan. He's not reimbursing me. So that should be 425, not minus 425, if that makes sense. So that does actually did that not make any difference? Right, no difference at all to the title. Why on earth would it not make any difference to the title, which definitely should do? Well, that's another issue. The amount of that loan isn't affecting the total expenses at all. That's bizarre. Try this one. Weird. How is that possible? So whenever this number's adjusted, it doesn't seem to have any bearing on this number here. Really bizarre that. Neither does that. Neither does that. That's really, I don't understand what's going on here, buddy. Something's wrong here. Oh, I think it's because your spreadsheet broke when I tried to update the projected figures. That's probably why. I'll have to reopen it. If I don't say anything more on this, then that's what's happened. Hey Chris, Jonathan here again. Yeah, I just want to clarify something. I don't understand. The seasonal variation, I think you've got spot on. That makes sense. The number of renewals kind of reflects that. 19's a bit bigger than 15, 6.8% is a bit bigger than 5.3%. That kind of makes sense. What I don't get is, and then obviously the retain's going to be slightly higher, so therefore renewal revenue is going to be slightly higher. So that up to here it all makes sense. But the new members does not. So the number of new members, obviously July's a manual entry, but well, actually, I say obviously, I'm not sure why July is a manual entry, but I'm guessing because that's the forecast and I can change them, but surely the forecast should automatically be your formula unless I manually edit it, and I know I haven't manually edited it. So that's a bit weird how that's 3 and not the formula there. But equally, if the seasonal variation for July is 5.3%, right, and we've got 3 new members in July predicted in Surrey East, how come when there's a higher percentage of variation weighting applied to August, there's fewer, and equally 6.4% in September, very similar to August, yet fewer still, and then 8.6% in October, only 2. It just doesn't quite ring true to me. I don't know if there's some rounding or some tolerances playing against each other here. Just doesn't quite feel right to me. So Surrey East, Surrey West new members, members core ups, Surrey East, Surrey West, etc. It might be worth adding an extra row here that says total new members and total core apps as well. Maybe not total core apps, but total new members. A new row for total new members might be useful for doing some of the formulas, possibly. Just a thought. If you could have a look at that, I'd be grateful, mate. Cheers. Hey Chris, right, we're there, buddy. Just one very last thing on the headlines. This EBITDA, it needs to say last 12 months. I know it's a really minor thing. I could edit it, but again, I don't know if it's transposing through to somewhere else. So turnover, net profit, gross profit, it's all great. EBITDA, we need to add in last 12 months. When you've given me the next version of the spreadsheet, I'm going to add a few little notes on here to explain what they refer to. But I think that's pretty much it. So thank you so much. What I'm going to do is, this is version 352. I am going to save this now, and then I'm going to save myself a copy, and I'm just going to put JH after it, just so I can still access this as it is now, but I know you're now going to get under the bonnet and have a look at all the things I've raised. One or two of the comments I've made, because this has been a long video, I'm thinking out loud, and I can definitely think of at least one comment I made which probably wouldn't make sense. So I can't be any more specific than that, I'm afraid, at the moment. I just know there was one where I thought, oh, that wasn't right. So apologies it's so long, but hopefully it's been quite comprehensive, and I will send you over this this checklist as well, which I'll just drag over for now so you can see. So I've done this list. So there you go. So thank you so much for all you're doing. It'd be really nice to draw this to a conclusion.